Folks, there have been a lot of different lawsuits against HUD, and there's an organization that is leading one right now. You see the changes that have been taking place. We've seen how our folks are being impacted by these decisions in the MAGA administration. We're seeing what they are doing. And so, four fair housing groups are suing HUD over DOGE grant cuts. These things are happening before our very eyes. And what people need to be aware of is that these things are going to continue. Of course, Vincent Hughes, he is no stranger to this show. State Senator out of Pennsylvania. Glad to have you here. Let's talk about this lawsuit. How critically important is it?
Roland, it's extremely important, and thanks for having me on. Hey, I gotta say this. I'm in the Germantown section of Philadelphia, where a couple Republicans decided to convene a meeting, having an appreciation conversation about what they're doing in Washington, D.C. So, we had to respond to that. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day, brother. So what has happened, very simply, is that DOGE suspended about $30 million in funding to fair housing rights organizations all across the country, about 70 different organizations receiving about 68 different grants all across the country to do the good work to enforce the Fair Housing Rights Bill that was passed into law in April of 1968. And these organizations have the responsibility to educate communities and work through discrimination issues and get them reported and get them addressed through the legal process. What has happened is that DOGE has essentially eliminated all of their funding, decimated these organizations, and now these organizations don't have any funding to do the work to protect against discrimination. And what it basically means is that Musk, Trump, and the whole crew believe it's okay to discriminate in housing in all throughout the United States of America. And the lawsuit was introduced to try to prevent that and to get those dollars restored to these organizations.
And look, people need to understand these are folks who already made allocations. They've got staff. This is like real. This is a real impact.
It's very real, Roland. And these are folks that you've talked with before, folks that you work with all across the country. Their job, very simply, is to enforce the law that was passed on April 11th, 1968, the Fair Housing Rights legislation. And so that's the law of the country. What DOGE has done is eliminate their funding. They cannot operate. They cannot do the investigations. They cannot send folks in to investigate. They can't educate communities. They can't hold people accountable. And, we've been dealing with this for years now. Most recently, as you recall, there's been several major settlements over the last 10 years with major banks around fair housing because they discriminated with modern-day redlining. We've been dealing with this for a number of years, and now we're back at it because these organizations will no longer have the funding in place to deal with educating communities and investigating communities where there's been discrimination.
How are others joining you in this pursuit?
Yes. We had a press event earlier this week, had several Congress people, several state senators join in this effort, putting public face and information out to the broader community. You know what's going on, Roland. There's so much happening at such a rapid pace that some of these issues get lost in the public conversation. That's why I appreciate you so much for opening up your airwaves so we can get this word out. So the lawsuit is being filed. Urban League, other organizations have filed a lawsuit nationally to get those dollars restored. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of what we're confronting all across this country. And folks have got to step up and step out and do whatever it is that they can. What I say, Roland, is very simple. Take your own hill. You've heard me say this before. Wherever you may be, don't worry for this party or this organization, whatever, to step up. Take your own hill. Get engaged wherever you can get engaged and fight this fight. But let's monitor this. We cannot go back to the days where where overt discrimination in our opportunity to purchase a home is allowed to be the law of the land. We cannot go back to those days. No.
Absolutely. All right, Senator Hughes, we certainly appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, brother. Take care of
I
yourself,
want
man.
to go to my panel here, Representative Jackson. I mean, this is, I need people who are watching to understand this is all by design. They want to starve organizations, cities, and states that they don't agree with. They want to starve them financially.
Roland, we need to mobilize and organize on every issue, on every front, and as my dear brother said, on every hill. I mean, let's face it, we all know that one of the most significant benefits of HUD fair housing grants is economic empowerment, right? It always gave Blacks access to affordable and quality housing. I mean, that's one of the most pivotal cornerstone in our lives, right? It's going to be one of the most major purchases that we will make in our lifetime. But when you start to strategically go after Black families, right? Not DEI families, Black families, that's where they're going after. So they don't want us to have Social Security. They don't want us to have a 401k plan. They don't want us to have housing. They don't want us to have Medicaid, Medicare. All these things are strategic. And so as you continue to advocate, Roland, that we got to mobilize and organize on every front and meet them where they are. So if they want to go low and start taking away HUD fair housing grants, then we need to meet them where they are. If we got to march in Atlanta, if we got to march in Detroit, if we got to march in Orlando, Florida, wherever we are, because this is going to impact us all.
And this is, I mean, we see what they're doing. It's very evident, Robert, and people need to pay attention. They're going to continue it. Luckily, you have these federal judges who are stamping up, but there's no guarantee that the appellate courts, the Supreme Court, are going to affirm these lower court rulings.
Look, at some point in time, we have to take responsibility as a community and realize that there was more people on social media talking about Just Hilarious and the Breakfast Club having a crash out than there are talking about the thousands of people who are going to be affected by the cuts to HUD, by the cuts to Medicare and Social Security, by the cuts to entitlement programs across the board. We as a community have to understand that we have to stop waiting for Superman. Gil Scott-Heron once said that there ain't no such thing as Superman. For some reason, we're expecting the next messianic figure to descend down to lead Black people. They believe that the next Dr. King or Malcolm is going to come and rise up from the polity and lead us to victory. That has never been the way that things worked. It took local organizers, people standing up in their own communities. It took the Fannie Lou Hamers and the James Oranges of the world. It took the Shuttleworths of the world to come together and bring together block by block, street by street, and say we're no longer going to be subjected to a system that treats us as being second class or subhumans in America. There's a reason that these groups are going after the least of among us first, because they know that America writ large does not care about the least among us, or we would have done something about it first. If you were going after these multi-million-dollar McMansions instead of going after people who are on federal assistance, you'd be hearing a lot more about it. If you were to hear, if we were going after these programs that are promoting people into the upper class and into the million-dollar contracts, then that we would hear more about that than when you're dealing with poor families that are just trying to get by side to side. So it's going to take us not just coming together, not just marching and going up and down the street 3-4 times. I think it's going to take a consecrated effort. If we see that they are pulling back on these federal programs, they're making it very clear they are, we have to create a community-based solution to do that. It can no longer simply be we lean on the crutch that we have for the last 80 years of saying the federal government will come in to push back against local racism. It has to be that we lean on our churches, lean on our nonprofits, lean on our business leaders and say, how will we fill the gap? How will we stand in the breach? We can no longer depend. If you're looking at what's going on internationally, you have the Germans saying that they are decoupling from America. You have the EU saying they are making plans for what happens when they can't depend on America. You have Japan Japan and South Korea coming together and saying we can't trust America to defend us if Taiwan is invaded by China. So why the hell are we as black folks in this country saying we are going to depend on the machinations of a fickle federal government and say that we're going to depend on them for our housing, for our food, for our livelihood, for our education? We have to start thinking nationalistically and how we will do better, because otherwise we will be falling to the wayside. Because if you think Trump is terrible, just remember, 20 years ago, everybody thought George W. Bush would be the worst president in American history. What do you think is going to happen 20 years from now? We have to prepare for the fight ahead.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.